All right, well, we got Slayer's Fang, we got the 4 Cattles done, and I gotta say, I am thoroughly disappointed. So, let's talk about it. Repulsor Brace refit, well, it's just Repulsor Brace. Loose Change refit, well, it's just Loose Change. Stats for all, blah, blah, blah. Cascade Point, you get my drift. Which one of these is the best for the gun, considering the circumstances? And to do that, you have to figure out what Slayer's Fang does in the first place. So, Slayer's Fang is a gun that does a couple things. Its intrinsic is Night Swarm Sight, dealing final blows to targets, grants Night Swarm Sight. During that time, final blows grant True Sight, reload speed, and precision damage is increased, and sub-munitions weaken targets. And its trait, rounds from this weapon shatter into sub-munitions on impact, and it is strong against reload champions. That matters less than the actual exotic perk itself. This gun is basically old Middle Tree Night Stalker Hunter before subclass 3.0, just cooked into one gun. This is basically what you'd used with Chaperone Flawless Executioner. That's Slayer's Fang now. Basically, Flawless Executioner, Chaperone as a gun by itself, Slayer's Fang that any class can use. That's what this is, so you kind of got to consider that. And unfortunately, all of its catalysts suck at supporting that. Starting off one by one, Repulsor Brace refit. Every time you get a kill against a Void debuffed enemy, you're going to get a 45 HP Void overshield for 8 seconds. Combo that with the fact that this gun by itself weakens targets. Weaken is considered a Void keyword, Void debuff, so it triggers its own Repulsor Brace at the same time. But the thing is, it's only going to be active at the second kill onward, unless you're triggering another debuff through the use of volatile rounds, like, my favorite build in the game, Gerfalcon's Hoybjerg, does all the time. Or if you have some other way to apply a Void debuff effect, such as, suppressing or hitting somebody with a Child of the Old Gods. I don't like Repulsor Brace. I think that Repulsor Brace is probably the worst option. 45 HP sounds nice, but consider the other 3 options that you have. Up next is the Loose Change refit, which is just the Loose Change perks, which applying an elemental debuff grants the following benefits for 4.5 seconds, and the stats it grants you: 50 reload speed, 20 aim assist, and a 20% decrease aim down sight movement speed penalty. That's what it does. Loose Change by itself is a perk that is typically, which because applying elemental debuffs with your elemental weapons without doing something else like wasting an ability, usually few and far between. But Loose Change on a gun that does generate its own elemental debuff in the form of the Night Sworn Sight, this does have a fair bit of use in my mind. Believe me, still not good. It's not spectacular, it's not stellar. This thing gives you all the stats you need. The aim assist is lovely. The extra movement speed that you're going to be getting from the decreased aim down sight movement speed penalty is awesome. And applying the Void Weaken effect to targets through the use of the exotic perk means that you're triggering Loose Change all the time, basically. I like the idea of using Loose Change. Loose Change is still a suboptimal perk, but let's look at the other 2 perks before I make my final decision. Up next is Stats for All refit. In 3 separate targets, increases weapon handling, stability, reload speed, and range for a moderate duration. You're going to be getting 35 plus 35 to handling and reload speed, plus 10 to stability and range, a 5% increased damage fall off distance, and a 0.95 reload duration multiplier, which in practice just speeds up your animation on top of getting the increased reload speed. So, it's faster on top of faster, looks faster, and actually is faster. This is the deceptive catalyst. This is the trick catalyst that they threw in there that most people are going to use thinking it is the best option, because Stats for All on most other weapons that don't use special ammo, weapons that aren't slug shotguns, is actually a good perk. You gotta remember, even though this does have the branching crystals and it kind of shoots out, it's still a slug shotgun, and it doesn't have that great of a fire rate. Hitting 3 targets in 3 seconds with this thing, unless you're in PvE just shooting straight into a crowd, these, even though it's not wasted stats, it is a wasted perk. It really is. In my humble opinion, Stats for All is a trick. They put this here to trick you into thinking that this is going to be the best option. This has no practical use whatsoever in PvP. I mean, sure, PvP God, and you think you can keep it up all the time, go for it. Be my guest. None of these perks are going to be good in PvP, but we'll get to that in a second. Stats for All is a trick. Don't use it. That's all I'm going to say. I would not use Stats for All. Cascade Point. Final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon increases this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration. A 40% decreased fire delay on a slug shotgun with only 7 rounds in the magazine with not the best reload speed in the entire world. This is going to be a stellar option for quick bursts of damage. The slug meta certainly isn't back by any stretch of the imagination. We certainly aren't running double slugs again. No Philo. We're not rocking first and last out on Templar again anymore with a heritage Philo. We are not rocking that anymore. The Cascade Point refit definitely has its uses. You keep your primary weapon, get your kills with it, and you take out your Cascade Point and you shoot a boss. Very, very good melt potential considering how much damage Slayer's Fang does and considering the fact that it does apply its own weaken as you use it. If you just want to shoot a big thing with Slayer's Fang, apply Cascade Point. That's it. If you don't care about crucible implications, if you don't care about anything else, you just want to shoot a big thing with a gun, you don't care about anything else, Cascade Point. Even when you're using Cascade Point with Slayer's Fang itself, because it is a shotgun, because it is a precision shotgun, it has 50% progression on each hit towards Cascade Point, which basically says for the first 2 bullets in the magazine, as long as they are both precision hits, those are going to be the regular fire rate, and then the final 5 after that are going to have the Cascade Point buff for 5 seconds after that. It's better to just get a kill with something else than swap onto it, just so you know you're not wasting time shooting 2 random ass shots. But still, you get your first kill with this weapon. You get your first precision kill with this weapon to trigger Night Sworn Sway. Maybe you get a second kill, hit a second precision shot, and then you have your 5 seconds. You have your weaken. You have everything you need in your Cascade Point. Cascade Point is going to be the best perk for the vast majority of people who are using this gun for its intended purpose of just hitting a boss, hitting something big, and just melting it. Those are all the catalysts. Pulsar Brace, Loose Change, Stats for All, Cascade Point. Which one do I think is the best? For the vast majority of players, 95% of the entire player base who are just coming into the game just to play, do strikes, whatever, play Gambit, use Cascade Point. You're going to appreciate it, you're going to enjoy it, you're going to see the most use out of it. For the highest end player who actively want to optimize this gun and get the most out of what stats this gun has available, call me crazy, Loose Change. That is the first and hopefully last time I will ever be recommending Loose Change as a perk. I will be having 2 of these guns. One of them with Loose Change if I'm in Crucible or literally anything else. One of them will have Cascade Point. That's pretty much it. Stats for All, like I said, Stats for All is a trick perk. This perk right here is to trick you. The stats you get are not useful in this thing unless you're shooting straight into a crowd. It is still a slug shotgun. It is still going to be a pain in the ass to trigger, and it is still not useful. It just is not a useful perk on a gun like this. And Repulsor Brace, it is 45 HP. In the grand scheme of things, that is nothing. So, pick between Loose Change if you know how to trigger it, if you know how to keep it up. I think you are going to be the happiest with Loose Change for you high-end players. And if you're casual, Cascade Point. Simple as. That is pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.